Hello, everyone. This is Clefairy here with something a little bit different. Today is April 22nd, as of when I'm recording this, and it's been a very fun day for gaming. Big news outside of the Civ patch is that they announced the Oblivion remaster, and it's out today. It's really exciting because it's going to be a very fun game to eventually play outside of recording and playing a bunch of Civ. But same time, today was also patch day, and I figured since I've been starting to record Civ, and it's a new patch, I think it'd be very fun for me to start having some, to sort of like go through it and give some raw impressions. I saw the video that they released that sort of goes over some of the changes that they made, and I could go over it as I see it, but I thought it'd be fun to just give my raw impressions on a few things. And sort of come up with some content ideas outside of like the typical gameplay loop. Hey Civ fans, rolled out update 1.20, highly requested improvements. Yeah, and a lot of this is going to be very much around the improvements. There isn't any new Civ. It's a lot of features and balancing changes. Note for Switch players, update 1.2 won't be available for Switch just yet and will be incorporated into the June update when Civ 7 releases on the Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm assuming they want to make sure the same version. I'm assuming there's a pain to release a version now and then try to roll something out really quickly. They're probably just... I actually don't know. I don't know enough about releasing software on the Switch 2. I'm assuming there's just a lot of stuff going on that they're trying to focus their efforts on getting the Switch 2 stuff ready. And they wanted to get this release out, but we don't talk about that. Update, you'll find return of multiplayer teams. I know people who didn't want to play until this was introduced, which is a pretty big win. A rework on the food and growth scale, significant update to resources and more. We highlighted the biggest changes in the feature spotlight section below, and further down you'll find the full notes, address AI, AI improvements, UI polish, and several more changes under the hood. If you read the April 8th update check-in, you already know this is part of the bigger roadmap. Up 1.2 sets the stage for a lot of what's coming next, especially as we continue to refine the core systems, improve the UI and pace, and support the game with more ways to play. Updates to Ooh, these look like bananas. I know that I saw that they had a bunch of new resources, but I didn't actually see what they were, or like it would come by quickly. Big updates have been made to resources in Civilization 7. Let's start with the 10 new resources we've added, including mangoes, clay, flax, rice, limestone, tin, llamas, hardwood, and wild game. I'm assuming those might be mangoes, but all of these can appear in the Antiquity or Explanation Age. Rice, limestone, tin, llamas, and hardwood appear in the Modern Age. These new resources come with their own effects, as well as at least one new narrative event for each. In addition to the new resources, we're spicing up the resource distribution with randomized resource generation. New placement logic will help keep each age unique and strategic. Don't worry, the resources you still need to complete Legacy Pass will be available, and certain resources are now gated by continent or hemisphere, with a change we're calling hemisphere identity. That's interesting. I don't know if they've ever done that before. This update also reimagines how treasure resources work. They're no longer just for treasure fleets, but have passive bonuses to your empire and are more clearly divided between homelands and distant lands, with unique icons and tooltips to make their roles clearer. We expanded the list of treasure resources too, including horses, furs, and rubies. Finally, we've made balancing changes to resources, like making dyes more potent for happiness, turning fish into a bonus resource. Turning fish into a bonus resource? It is, except for the last era. Is that what they mean? Turning fish into a bonus resource? Unless... Let me keep reading. And introducing tin. Okay, so I think... Okay. Wow, if I literally kept reading. So fish is no longer a factory resource in the modern era, and tin replaces it. We hope these updates bring some more flavor and strategy management with one more. With many improvements, additions, or resources is still in the works, including improvements to the resource screen itself. I'm curious to see what those end up looking like. Also, a little hint for the devs about what's to come. These updates will lay the needed groundwork aimed to expand the multiplayer count, including enable distant land starts. Oh, yes, they talked about this. So basically, for those unaware, when you start the game always will start any of the players in the homelands. And the distant lands, I don't know how they're maintained during the Age of Antiquity. I don't know the full logic. My understanding is that there are civs doing actions, but the land isn't particularly generated yet. The game is very much built around the idea of homelands, and so, well, when you even ignoring all that stuff, when you get to the Age of Exploration, distant lands is just purely defined on the map. So those two AI players and like your normal like small like if you just have a game with 6 players, the 2 that spawn in the distant lands like already are settled on treasure fleets. Like they just exist in distant lands. Like they don't have their own concept of distant lands, which doesn't really work. Except with the AI, because then but now the idea is that they're laying the foundation so that players don't have to start on the homelands. Like you could have players start in 2 completely different continents and not be able to interact until the Age of Exploration. One more turn, as we know you've been waiting for this one. We know you've been waiting for this one. Endless Play is here. Now players will have the option to play just one more turn during single-player games in the end of the modern age. At this point in the game, a victory has already been won, so all the other victories will be disabled during this game mode, and the age progress indicator will turn into an infinity symbol. However, you can still complete the steps for other victories, get the cinematics, and experiment with your empire if you want to see it play out. You'll even still be able to grab Legacy Path achievements if you haven't already. If you do choose to edit your endless game, so you say no more turns. This is really good. I personally don't use the one more turn option. I don't think I ever have in my many hours of playing Civ 6, and I have not yet to do it. I would have yet to have cared to do it in Civ 7. I think this is a good thing. Granted, certain things still need to be balanced, but I like the concept of doing this for something like the military condition, where I know people who just like to conquer the worlds, and the military condition doesn't, like when you go for the victory condition, it doesn't give you nearly enough time to use the nukes and blow up the world. So I think that's going to be a very healthy addition. Food and growth rebalance. We've heard you loud and clear on this one. Food and population growth needs some dev TLC. The old system for growth had some bottlenecks, making it much less valuable, making less valuable yields compared to science, production, culture, etc. So in update 1.2.0, we've reworked the underlying math to make food a more reliable and rewarding yield across the entire game. We've removed the hard cap that used to block growth when gaining food and changed the way growth scales. Instead of the following a cubic formula where costs ramped up fast, we've shifted to a quadratic curve, meaning your settlement will still slow down as they get larger, but the pacing should feel more natural. A few bullets here will impact feel. Food-focused strategies are finally viable all game long. I mean, they're aiming. This is it will be the judge of that, but food-focused civs and leaders like Magic Cutie will feel stronger and more fun to play. AI behaviors improve since they can now leverage high food starts and avoid bottlenecks that used to limit their expansion. You may find you even need to turn your difficulty down a notch. I've heard a bunch of this. I didn't know it was contextualized specifically around food. It sounded like they were trying to just make the civs the AI much smarter at district placement. I kind of have to see how this works out, because I have noticed this issue a little bit with the food, but not as much. I think I don't notice as much because this is just how I played Civ 6, where I didn't focus too much on food. I feel like the Civs. I don't know. I have to see. It definitely slows down a lot. Like, I have to see how it plays out. Because basically what they're saying, I don't. I wish I could see the formulas. So I tried to find something that like compared like the quadratic function graph to like cubic, and it doesn't really illustrate the point. So basically, if you like basically look like what this is basically trying to illustrate, if what I think was happening is like you would get easy growth, like the growth of Civ 7 was balanced around like the first few growths, but it just like went way too drastically up. It scaled way too much. They still want there to be a good sense of scale, but they've changed the formula. So basically like it still curves up, but notice it's not nearly as instant. And this isn't ones when I would almost imagine like instead of this being like 5 and 10, this is more like 10 and 20, where like you ramp up pretty quickly to like 10, and it's not linear at all. I wouldn't say it's linear, but it's like it's still like it's increasing, but it should slow it down enough where in the grand scheme like it still makes building like making like a town have all of like the rural tiles worked like still something. It's something that like you can hit and it be an achievement, but it's not going to happen right away. But it is something that can like I hope this makes sense. I'm also my mouse is on the okay, I can see it now. I don't know why I wasn't seeing it before. So that's just I'll leave that graph open in case I reference it again. Multiplayer teams. Multiplayer teams are officially back. In multiplayer, you can now play co-op with a friend or have a showdown with multiple teams facing off against each other. Here's some of the details. Teams share visibility with each other along with the relationships, war status, alliance status with others. So I'm wondering if like I was to disperse a friend, an independent power someone else was like befriending, does that all must affect both your relations must like be a unit. Yeah, that makes sense. I wonder how you create alliances that way, but requires experimentation. When one player wins a victory, the whole team also wins that victory. It's pretty much expected. Teammates can perform diplomatic actions with each other, except espionage. That makes sense. I honestly think there's a bit of espionage, this is perfect. It's almost treated like the Civ 6 alliance, where like being an ally with someone strictly meant you couldn't do certain actions. A couple important notes: unlike past Civ games, teams don't share tech or Civ progress. We wanted each leader to still feel unique and fully playable, even when you're working as a team. The same also applies to legacy path progress. It's still your own behavior. I agree with the legacy path because it would make the only exception I would say is that if you're on a team, maybe scaling it so that if you're a team of 2, you have to like almost double. But I don't know. This is one where I could be convinced either way. If we were to compare it to Civ 6, it's not like you like shared a religion and got your religious victory by doing that in that particular circumstance. I don't know if you even did you share. I don't even think you shared tourism. That might be wrong. I only think you could have really shared a win condition when it came to military. So I agree with this. The Civ and tech progress, part of it I disagree with. I feel like what I'm assuming they're trying to avoid is like if you're playing heavy science and your teammate is playing heavy culture, that you can't just then like take over the tree. Like you being a science civ means that like you own that and can't also do all the culture things, and then vice versa for the culture civ. But I do think there should almost be a little bit of balance. I feel like there should be an element of making some tech progress reduces, or maybe it's just, honestly, maybe it should be an option. These things that I'm thinking about it almost I feel like should be options so that players can customize it the way they want, but in their own, I understand trying to be careful considering the game, probably they're trying to focus more on fixing bugs than making systems that are like 100% perfect. And obviously I want everything to be perfect, but this is the real world. Okay, so now these are the actual nodes. Everything was just like the spotlights, the resources. Added 10 new resources. We already know more over that. New narrative events. Resources now randomized on new game starts. Some guaranteed in certain ages to enable economic lazy path in each age. New pricing rules make it feel more consistent resource distribution in initial ages. More changes between age transitions. I actually wonder if this. I have to maybe pull up a game. I'm curious to know if this would make, like, one of the things that frustrates me is it's really hard to unlock the Abbasid culture in the exploration age because getting camels is a bit inconsistent. It always feels like there's only like 3 ever that spawn, and obviously like someone's gonna settle one of those when you can't, and then you end up in the situation like you might have to go to war to unlock it. And those, I don't like those. I feel like there should be conditions based on how you play. And I don't like one that's based on RNG. I wonder if this will help with that, but I'd have to look at it, or I'd have to see it in action. Some resources in the exploration age and modern age related to economic legacy paths, treasure, and factory resources will now appear on only one hemisphere or other, requiring you to expand overseas to trade to access them. That makes sense. I have a critique on this that I could go into. I haven't seen anything about having trade routes with people with treasure fleets helping you get said treasure fleet, but some resources in the related to economic paths will now appear. Well, I guess I'm reading too much into this, requiring you to trade with them, or you settle that hemisphere. But I digress. This doesn't feel like it's chain. This is just, this last point feels strange. It doesn't really add anything because, like, yeah, hold on a sec. Some resources are required to trade. I hope this means that you can trade for treasure fleets. Treasure resource updates. Treasure resources now have a passive effect on your empire, in addition to creating treasure fleets when improved on coastal settlements and distant lands. Dev note, we wanted to make these resources worth improving and protecting even if they didn't grant you treasure fleets on your homelands. Horses, furs, and the new rubies resources are now treasure resources now, and will create treasure fleets when improved on coastal lands. Gold, silver, cocoa, spices, sugar, and tea continue to be treasure resources. Cocoa, spices, sugar, and tea are divided among the major land masses and ions of the game, meaning each hemisphere will have some treasure resource unique to it. Homelands and distant lands are distinguished on the map with the tooltip and new symbol on the resource. This was needed because it's so confusing to tell which is which. For some, like I've kind of figured out the logic of the game, and I probably now have to relearn it because they're changing a lot of how it works, it seems. Dev note, homelands and distant lands are from each civilization's perspective. This is new. This is not how it used to be. It used to be that, as I said before, the 2 civs that spawn in distant lands still was their distant lands. So your homelands could be distant lands to another civilization. This is new. This is very good. This was about to answer my question of how horses would exist in the Age of Antiquity. And I partially like that. I think it's kind of... I wonder what bonus it's going to give now, because it used to give cavalry unit combat strength until the modern age. I wonder if it's not going to do that anymore. And I would call out that this makes it harder to get the Mongols unlocked, but in all fairness, I never unlocked the Mongols with horses. I always unlock them as siege units. So this is totally a fine change. I like the personality. One of the there was a mod for Civ 6 that kind of did something like this where it made resources more generate more in patches and had certain ones assigned to certain continents. I like this. It adds really, really good flavor. The Distant Lands continent in the Antiquity Age no longer spawns placeholder treasure resources for age transition. The Distant Lands continent, and no longer spawns placeholder treasure resources for age transition. I wonder, I have no idea what that means. But good. Sounds like wonky game design that this was a thing. Resource balance changes. Dyes give 4 happiness instead of 3. Fish is no longer a factory resource. It is a bonus resource with the effect of +6 on the settlement with a port. I like this. Although bonus resource, that's a lot for a bonus. Bonus resources don't normally have this flavor unless when they say bonus. No, bonuses are the ones that apply to city. Whatever. 10 is the new resource. We like the boosted growth rate effect, but not in the number or scale fish were granting it. This was fair. Fish were by far the best to make sure you settled building up to the modern age if you were going for an economic win, because it was easy to go wild with them for an economic victory. Map generation improved coastal erosion on Continent Plus, Continent Shuffle, and Terra Incognito maps to help break up coastlines more, especially near the poles. I didn't have an types to break up coastlines more. Sure. Oh, I see what they're saying. I see. So here, like, notice. I don't know what this GIF is 1,000% trying to tell me. I think it's just trying to make it more distinct which, like break up the continents so much more, so there's like a proper split between the two. I think that's what it's saying. Gameplay. AI will now build large navies when playing on the Argo map type. This, I think, this was the game I just finished that I think it's not finished as it's finished from my perspective. It's not fully uploaded yet, but my game as Jose Rizal was an archipelago map, and I noticed that the AI did not care about building navies, which made city-states much easier to befriend. This will be good to make it align with the other map types. Part of me is a little sad, but yeah, I think this was definitely needed. AI players will no longer pick city-state bonuses that have already been chosen by another player. I didn't even know you could do that. Improved how AI land units handle attacks from hostile naval units. Improved AI usage of great people, unique civilian units. Probably good, because I don't know if I ever have seen them use it before. Just a reported issue where the AI would sometimes fail to attack nearby enemy units while forming units to attack a settlement. Interesting. Age transition. It just reported an issue that could prevent legacy cards from unlocking during age transition. This is speculated. This is a speculative fix based on the ongoing investigation. It may not cover all cases yet. Hang in there as we continue. Software engineer, I know exactly this feeling where it's probably ridiculous. Like, enough people reported it was obviously an issue, but they probably could not consistently recreate it. They probably just saw where it could have been an issue and fixed and reworked how it was implemented. Diplomacy. Increase the penalty of being caught stealing technologies and civics by 50%. The base cost over 10 turns to 100% of the base cost over 10 turns. This is probably needed. I feel like it's not discouraged. Like, I feel like I get the espionage. I don't use espionage enough. I probably need to use it more. I focus so much on being everyone's friend. And this is me. I'm bad. Don't follow my example yet. I still have a lot to prove as a role model for how to play the game. But like, the AI constantly, like, I'll be allies with people and they constantly espionage against me, and it doesn't make a dent into our alliance. The only thing that makes that dent is different ideologies. I think being in good standing with someone, like, and doing something like this should be much more detrimental. Like, you want to tread very carefully. Like, when you agree to make an alliance with someone, like, you can't do stuff like that, or it should be very punishing. Obviously, if you hate someone and you want to do this, then continue to do it. Increase the amount of time it takes to steal technology in Civic. This is also really good because it's a powerful source of espionage. Counter spying. I'll be using it in any number of plays. This was so needed because again, the way I play, I would want to do this, but then you can only counter spy against one, and it's one of those things like it should be it should be more than one. Anyway, added a 30% failure chance to espionage taken while being counter-spied. We found that stealing technologies was a bit too powerful of a strategy, and there was not enough counterplay repercussions for doing it. These changes should make it riskier to do it in the first place and not allow a player to steal as many. Interesting. I have noticed that when I did use it, it was very good. I kind of now wish I used it more. The influence penalty for conquered settlements is now properly removed when you lose control of the conquered settlement. That's smart. You shouldn't be losing influence if you no longer have that conquered settlement. Address a reported issue where the reward for befriending an independent could sometimes fail to be... Thank you. Oh my god. Thank you. This is needed. I assume it's the issue that I think it is. So needed. Environment. Natural disasters on light settings should appear 50% less frequently compared to before. Natural disasters on moderate settings should appear 25% less than before. So I saw this. I kind of understand what people mean, but I feel like it just showed up frequently when it came to flooded rivers. I think I wouldn't care that much, but the penalty of a natural disaster is not that significant. It was way more brutal in Civ 6 when you're doing well and then a storm rolls in and just wipes out a bunch of your rural tiles, and then you actually have to invest production and turns into rebuilding everything. But here you can, I think, if they remove the ability to spend coin to fix broken things, this makes it the way it is now. I don't necessarily see why people are complaining about this again as much. Bridges can now be purchased in towns. I really like this because bridges are really cool, but I never feel like I want to build them in my towns because you can only have them, I don't feel like I ever want to build them in my cities because they're just in the cities, and I don't know. And now I would consider having more of them because it can be more cohesive. And it feels like something constructible in a town. Towns with a water-based building are now considered coastal and will be connected to settlements whose cities are on the same continent. Towns with a water-based building are now considered coastal. What's the change here? I thought that was always the case. In fact, part of it was a little goofy. Anyway, I don't know. I thought that was already the case. Maybe it... I've seen this not work when it came to having a lake or a water-based building on a lake. Maybe that's what it's referring to. Anyway, the cost of upgrading a town or a city has been increased in the exploration of modern age. This is very much needed. The scale, this was something that did not have any scaling effects to it. And it basically made you choose if you wanted to have all cities or still have a lot of towns. And I don't think it should do that. Base cost per city is increased 100 gold per age. I don't know if that's enough scaling, but I have to see in action. Remove happiness penalties for losing trade routes and spawning or resettling migrant units? I don't know. Okay. Buildings with increased cost modifiers can no longer be purchased without sufficient gold. Buildings with increased cost modifiers. I didn't even know you could build them with insufficient gold, so I don't... Good change, but it didn't affect me. Using a merchant to connect a city to a town that already has a focus when I'll properly send food from that town without needing to reset the focus. Using a merchant to connect a city to a town that already has a focus. will now properly send food from that town without needing to refocus. Interesting. Address a reported issue that sometimes causes merchants to be unable to connect to settlements by building roads with their land trade. I need to use the building roads ability more. I feel like it's something that's going to up my game, and I just don't understand the ability well enough. Address a reported issue where some town connections were broken after age transition. We're continuing to make improvements here. We're investigating at least one more known issue where the connections will not allow update correctly when loading an autosave for the first turn on age. Huh. I do this a lot. So I've probably been the victim of it without realizing it. Buildings that require a full tile can now be built over tiles with only a single obsolete building. Buildings that require a full tile. Oh, something like the railroad or the aerodrome. That's a good change. I didn't even realize that was an issue. Expansionist. This was an issue because I didn't probably notice it because I always make sure I have full districts. And you could do it over in tiles with 2 buildings. Obviously 0. I-Series you can do with 1. The expansionist legendary attribute now correctly reduces the cost of upgrading. That's that's funny. I never picked this before, but it would be really funny if I did and notice it did nothing. Unique quarters no longer re-trigger their effects again after being repaired. I didn't know that happened. The Manhattan Project can no longer be started by a single player in multiple different zones at the same time. I saw that you could do this, which is really funny. But good fix. Food growth. Who the previous hard cap effects on population growth when stockpiling food. The growth formula now scales quadratically instead of cubically, so each growth event only modestly increases the number of turns until the next population increase. Yes. I'm curious to see how this plays out. Empire powers. Empowers will no longer be removed after losing all their units. I have definitely removed all of an independent power's units before and have not seen this. Dispersing independent power, the naval unit no longer removes adjacent player districts if the borders are touching. I've never seen that before, and that sounds terrifying. Gray people can no longer be used on ineligible tiles with no effect. Didn't realize that could happen. The technology tutorial now correctly occurs before the Growth City tutorial. Mementos. Address a reported issue where Confucius's brush and scroll memento could cause food needed to the next growth event to become 0 or negative. The lantern memento will no longer grant its effect when not equipped. Okay. Military pack units can now be upgraded simultaneously. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I hate this so much in the current game. It's so needed. Production costs and maintenance of cavalry units have been increased. The production cost has increased by 10 production per age, and the maintenance cost is 1 gold in all ages. Yeah, it's probably needed. I don't know the exact numbers today relative to infantry units, but it's not often beneficial to have infantry units versus like instead of cavalry units because they're stronger, they have more movement. There should be more penalty there, and there just wasn't enough. I've had very few situations where infantry has been better. The initiative promotion now applies consistently on rivers and rough terrain and continues to function correctly after age transitions. Naval units are now less likely to be placed in inland lakes on age transitions. Oh, I had this happen once, and I was so mad. On age transitions, the game looks for the largest nearby body of water when placing naval units. So basically, they're trying to aim for it to be placed in the ocean. Players now correctly receive an aerodrome commander after conquering a city with an aerodrome during the modern age. Needed good change. I think I only had once have I ever captured a city with an aerodrome, so I probably didn't notice that was an issue. Fertility rights now applies to all settlements, not just cities. Oh, I like that. God of Healing now requires an altar in the capital, but the effect is still global. Interesting. Civs. The Chola. The Sumerian unique ability now adds the correct amount of extra trade capacity. The Inca Q tradition will no longer stack when slatted and unslatted in the same turn. Ooh, a little bit behind the scenes. I have a game that I'm not recording. It's just on my Steam Deck. And I'm playing as an Inca literally right now. And I'm turned it off from the internet so I can finish it before this patch comes in. I'm going to fuck with this and see. I'm just going to do it and see what happens, but that's exciting. Mexico. Just a reported issue where using Mexico's great person, Jose Maria Morales, on a commander could result in units disappearing from the map. Settlements now only use Prussian names. Huh. I wonder if I've noticed that before. UI. New UI features. Added research and queuing. This is very needed because I love queuing technologies and civics a lot in Civ 6 because usually I'm just aiming in a specific direction. Added a repair all option. Yes, I heard about this. It's really good because I usually repair things all at once. Added a highlight on tiles when a great person is selected to indicate where they can activate. I really like this. It's probably specifically good for like the civs, but like it's helpful for like the banker. It's helpful with the merchant. It should be on anything that has like an activation ability. Alignment and spacing page no longer. Blah blah blah. It's just some UI cleanup. Address a report issue where the settlement HP bar was overlapping with the diplomatic bar. Yeah. Report issue where the war support icon was misaligned. Civipedia, default terrain. Correct. Ooh, so corrected a couple of inaccuracies. I like this. Should be informative. Controller specific. I don't use. Oh, that's not true. So I use it in the Reserve no longer highlighted pink. I've seen this before. Focus on unit impact. I don't care. General. Oh, I just saw. Okay, civics and text and civics now show if a wonder is already built or unlocked by the player. Specifically, this first one, if it's already built, is really good because it can be unlocked if you're playing as a specific civ. Like if you're playing as Inca, you can get Machu Picchu early from your civics, from your Inca civics. So, but I really like that you can see this. This is something that wasn't even in Civ 6, so it was easier to tell if someone had built something. Just because, I mean, one, I paid more attention to the notifications, but even if I didn't, you could, depending on how much you explored, like, see if it existed for another player already. At least but I don't believe you could see out of researching it whether it's built or not. But now knowing that it has, before you've researched it, will change a lot. There's so many moments that this would made me rethink what I am building or not. Address a reported issue where the players open the challenge, overlapping or freezing. Address the report issue that diplomatic options were unable to interact with during the Antiquity Age. Add a new icon for treasure resources. Treasures in your distant lands that will generate treasure fleets have a unique version of this icon to help distinguish. City banner, exploration age tutorial. You can now place a building. Menu after selecting tell me more. This health bar of health units no longer turns red after. Okay, this is good because it would just turn red, I think, as was on damage unit of the same type during the gameplay. Oh, that's just another fix. Never mind. The correct building information not only controls a reliquary. When attempting to load a save without owning all the content within the save, a pop-up will appear. Golden Age Universities now appears eligible action locations to research artifacts while playing in the modern age. I like this. Is that what drives research? Huh. Ribbon yields, town yields now change properly after judging. guess they didn't before. Combat previews now appear when tagging districts with an enemy unit on it. Autofill legacy cards now only select unused cards. Added a background to subtitles when creating a game. Locked leaders subs now consistently appear locked when creating a new game. Address an issue being unable to allocate to the original senator. Okay. Oh my god, there's still more. Reduces the frequency of town specialization available. Address a reported issue where settlements raised a notification in certain alright, most of this stuff is very small. I'm gonna skip over. Added estimated turns until next phase. Oh, I like this because that makes it easy to tell when those things are going to be up again. Added turns remaining until diplomatic is performed. This is needed because you had to look up your diplomatic actions on other people before knowing to do it again. Plot tooltips will now appear underneath other 2D elements. Special tooltips information now only appears on urban plots. Tooltips description. Ooh, okay. Added several narrative events and addressed a number of reported issues preventing narratives from triggering. Corrected quote attribution for a couple of them. Body as a tool. Reward tooltip for the third option now displays correctly in this event. Denied. Reward now correctly matches the option text in this event. Engines of War quest. Okay, so this just fixes the specific narrative. Wait. Oh, because it's adding the events related to the resources. Alright, I want to see Steam Deck, because I play on the Steam Deck. Address several input, output from the UI. Steam only, increase the allowed honestly settings. There's a couple of stuff that, no, hold on, all consoles report an issue where DLC would sometimes not be available. That's not an issue I've seen. There's a couple of Steam specific issues that I understand that are not prioritizing, but oh no. I think it's a really good patch. I'd have to say the things. I don't know if they went over this, but I know one of the things that changed. I probably overlooked it or read it and forgot. They did add the towns now display what the most recent the build was. I really like that change. I think the resources change. I have to sort of see how, and the growth change, I have to see how it feels to play it out. I'm probably going to record something later today for another game. So I have to, I'll be commenting to see how I feel about it then. But a lot of this stuff is very much more like it's a journey. To me, these are the changes that I want to see to set up things like the distant lands versus homeland stuff is something that does need to be like addressed. It's all stuff in the right direction. I honestly just a lot of the UI stuff is good. Some of these things should have been addressed obviously when the game was on like launched, but some of them, like the bouncing ones like this, I like appreciate stuff around like, okay, it's obvious this is overtuned, let's dial it back a little bit. A lot of the prioritization of quality of life changes I think is really good. It just like the last patch added a sense of freshness when it came out, and I see a lot of potential with that here, so I'm really excited. But I think that's going to be it for these patch notes reviews. Thank you so much for watching. This is Clefairy signing out.